Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live presentation titled OPC Connection Best Practice. My name is Randy, and I am the presenter today. Let's get going. Once again, today's presentation is OPC Connections Best Practice. We're going to talk about the actual problem definition, the solution, the proposed solution. I will show you this OPC Expert viewer, and very specifically, we'll go through connections, collecting data, storing the data in a historian so you can later do analysis on it, and we'll take a look at some troubleshooting messages. And that's really the key for OPC Expert, is to help you troubleshoot and diagnose connection problems. In the end, I'll show you how to get a copy of this webinar recording, which of course we're just going to email to you, and where you can get a link to download this software. Okay, so what are we talking about here? As you know, OPC connectivity is really very common. So when we have a PLC and we have an OPC server, we have an OPC client from any manufacturer, from any vendor, it really doesn't matter. When we have an OPC server and an OPC client, lots and lots of OPC applications are available, but the problem we have is that the connectivity itself is often very problematic, especially that very first connection. So when you have a problem, how exactly do you start to troubleshoot it? So what we need is a way to troubleshoot this connection right here. So if you have a server, you're connecting to an HMI or to a historian or to some kind of an analytical application, how do you troubleshoot this connection? And that's where this OPC application comes in, OPC Expert application comes in. So specifically what we're talking about is you have a PLC, that data goes into an OPC server, and we're going to troubleshoot this connection with OPC Expert. So if OPC Expert can get to this OPC server, your application will be able to do it as well. So we'll do a local connection, and we're also going to make a connection to a remote OPC server. So very specifically, we'll connect to local OPC servers, and I mean servers, plural, both UA and DA, and we will troubleshoot a connection to remote OPC servers, and we will even collect this data and put it into a historian so that we can start to analyze the data, and you can look at your process data as well. So that's what we are going to do today. Now, the key features that you'll notice are these. Number one, as far as Windows support, goes all the way from Windows XP all the way to Windows 11, or if you're using Windows Server from 2003, all the way to Windows 2022. So from the latest, in fact, 2025 as well. So it goes from the earliest to the latest operating system, whatever Windows operating system you're using, it's supported. Now, for those of you that are asking about Linux, that is, and in fact, non-Windows operating systems, you can actually get OPC data on those systems as well, and OPC Expert helps you with that using REST API and web services very specifically. We have another webinar on that. As far as OPC support, there's OPC UA, so you get OPC UA DA, OPC UA HA, and OPC UA A and C. Also for OPC Classic, there's OPC DA, OPC HDA, and OPC Alarms and Events, OPC A&E. And of course, there are other connections like MQTT, Modbus, REST API, so they're all in there. Now, what's also very important as far as OPC is concerned is that all the communication profiles are supported when you're going to OPC UA. So you have an opportunity to test it. So if your application is using some kind of a secure communication to a remote or local OPC UA server, you can actually use OPC Expert to test that connection, where you can connect to local and remote OPC servers using DCOM or TCP/IP, HTTP or HTTPS. So with OPC UA, all of your connections, you can test them with OPC Expert, and it will diagnose your connections. You'll get very accurate diagnosis and verbose explanations that I will show you in a little bit. And of course, you can connect to third parties as well. That's really the entire point. OPC Expert can provide you with a connection to the OPC server. And in fact, it can even mimic those OPC servers if that's what you need. Now, the architecture looks like this. So what I'm going to show you here, everything I'm going to show you is included within OPC Expert. So when you look at OPC Expert and you look inside it, you open it up, you see a white box. Here is what you're going to see. It begins with an OPC DA and OPC UA client. And that data goes into OPC Expert's intelligent engine. So again, all of this that you're going to see here is included within OPC Expert. Now you also get in there an OPC event client. Now I'm saying event client, but really it's OPC alarm and condition, alarm and event. But there's also OPC HDA and UA HA as well. So all of those are included in there. In any case, this is how you can get the data into this intelligent engine. And I'll show you what's an intelligent engine in a bit. From there, it can go to OPC DA server or UA server. So here you can convert, for example, from OPC DA to UA or OPC UA to DA, OPC A&E to OPC ANC, OPC HA to HDA, and so on. So you can do all of those conversions within OPC Expert. Again, OPC Expert isn't just this, OPC Expert is the whole thing. You can also send data to Excel via the real-time data engine, Excel RTD, that's Microsoft's real-time data, and we have webinars on this as well, separate webinars. Now, from there, you can also send data to MQTT, where you have an MQTT subscriber, a publisher, and a broker. So all of that is inside. You can send data to databases, Access, or Microsoft SQL, or whatever it is that you want as far as the databases. And you can send data out using REST API, web services, and we even have our own little client API that you can create your own OPC clients, and of course servers. So the toolkit is included inside. So all of this is included inside OPC Expert. And in this specific webinar, since we're talking about diagnosing connection problems, we're focusing on this right here. So with all this stuff that's included, we're focusing on this right here. And that's what we'll see is the client, or the different clients, and we will see how this connection is made. Now, very specifically, once again, what we're going to see is this, where we make a local connection. We will make a remote connection. So we're going to connect to local OPC servers. You'll see the kind of servers. And we will make a connection to remote OPC servers where we might actually see a problem. And we'll even take that data and store it. So let's go have a look at what this looks like. So I will go to remote desktop. There's my remote desktop. And here we go. So in here, what we see is just a regular computer, nothing special here. There's OPC Expert. I already put a shortcut on the desktop, and you can see when you download OPC Expert, it's really just one executable. So OPC Expert does not do any kind of installation. You don't need an installation. It doesn't change Windows registry settings. When I double clicked on it, as you saw, OPC Expert extracts all the files it needs right in here. So if you're tired of it, you don't need it anymore on some computer, you can just delete it. Again, there's no installation, so it doesn't change Windows registry settings, which is very important because you can put it now on audited systems. So you can put it on and then take it off right away. In any case, we don't need this any longer. There we go. And there is OPC Expert. So let's have a look at what we see with OPC Expert. So the first thing we need to do is we will browse this computer. So there we go. We're browsing the computer. And what we see are a bunch of servers. Now, in here, what you can see are OPC DA servers, there are A&E servers, there are HDA servers. So some of these servers you can see they have multiple So for example, Kepware, you can see that there are two in here. One is DA, one is alarms and events. Now, if you're ever wondering about these servers and they're not running right now, so we can go to properties, for example, on this server right here. I just chose the alarm event server, and you can see, and we'll get back to this. You can see, for example, this is simulate tilde 2 is what it's going to look like, and the process is not currently running. This is not running yet, and there's the location, for example. If I go to another OPC server, here's something that is sometimes difficult to find. So you can see the description, prog ID, there's the GUID. Now, if you're looking for it in DCOM config, and we'll get back to this later, you can see there is the name of the server. That's what you're going to look for in DCOM config. And you can see the port that is being used with a process ID. So this guy's running, and there is the server executable, which is sometimes difficult to tell when you're looking at an OPC server. For example, it's OPC servers Kepware, but the executable itself is server_runtime. And OPC Expert helps you to put all of that together. In any case, let's connect to an OPC server, and I'll get back to alarms and conditions and alarms events right away. So what I want to see right now is just a slightly smaller list. So we'll uncheck OPC historical data access, we'll uncheck alarms and events. So now we're going to look at UA and DA servers. So there we go. So I'll connect to Iconics, for example, connecting in here. Let me get into numeric, and I will take some data. I can drag and drop, or I can double click, just like this. So this is how I can subscribe to data. And you can see in here, just make this a little bit smaller. There we go. You can see the data, the information. You can see the value, the timestamps, the quality. This is my timestamp right here. I'm on Mountain Daylight Time, in case you're wondering if this is live, and it's now 7:13 my time. We can see on the right-hand side here, you can see the data types. So we can see the data types, the number of updates that we received. So for example, this guy right here only had 2 updates, and it's not changing at all. Okay, so that's one OPC server. I can go to another OPC server right here. So I can also very easily subscribe. So I can just take a folder and I can drag and drop it in, and I can subscribe. This green check mark tells me everything is working okay. So we don't see problems yet. We will soon. Let's connect to a UA server here. So I'll connect to this specific UA server here, which is the OPC Foundation UA sample server. That's this guy right here. And we'll expand it. And sure enough, we can see that we can see some data in here as well. So we can connect to UA, or we can connect to OPC DA. Just the same. There really is no difference as far as OPC Expert is concerned. There's no difference whatsoever. So here we'll take some data, and of course you can subscribe to all of that data. So here we see local connections, and typically you don't have problems with local connections, but there we go. We can see that we're actually getting data. Okay, now let's go, and we're going to make a connection to a remote computer. So when we make a connection to a remote computer, we've got to add it to the entire network. So right here, so we'll go add computer. So pardon me, I can do an automated browse, which normally fails on most of your networks. If it does work, OPC Expert would have actually shown a list of computers, but if you can't, you can just double click here to add a computer, or you can right click entire network and add a computer. In my case, it's application-PC. So that's the computer that I'm going to connect to. There it is. And we'll do a browse. Now, down here, we can see what is being browsed for, and we're going to see the results right away. And here we can see this is taking quite a while. And boy, I wasn't expecting this. So let's see what's going on. And sure enough, OPC Expert shows me a little error right here. And there's another one. Let's just click on this error. And what it's telling me here is that OPC Expert couldn't connect to OPC enum on application PC. You can see this is pretty verbose, easy to read. So now it's going to tell me the cause. So the cause is maybe I got the computer name wrong. So that could be the case. Or a firewall is blocking the communication. Oh, what do you know? So it's telling me that it could be the firewall as well. So I know I got the computer name right, although I can check it. It says suggested action, deactivate, turn off the firewall on computer application PC. All right, so I went ahead and I did that. So you can see these errors. It actually tells me right away. I'll right click and rebrowse. And sure enough, when I rebrowse, I can see the OPC servers inside. So, for example, I can make a DA connection. Ah, look at this. Here I see an exclamation mark. I wonder why. So when I look at my errors, and I'll just scroll up here. So there you can see my errors. It gives me a little warning. This isn't an error, it's a warning. And why? Just to show you, because here we can see that I am getting data, and this time you can see an exclamation mark. An exclamation mark means, hey, buddy, pay attention because I'm getting your data, but I'm having a problem. So I'm just scrolling up here. Here is the error itself. Let's see what it says. So in this case, now what people typically do, and I see this very often, is they try to read this right here, but instead, there's the error right here. And what it's telling me, in fact, I'll just move it here. What it's telling me is that we were able to connect to this OPC server on application PC. So we were, but we're not getting asynchronous callbacks. We're not getting data updates. And it tells me this is usually caused by authentication problems. So it's telling me exactly how to fix it. But first, what we need to do, so it's telling me to go to the computer, select manage. So we go to computer, select manage. So it's asking me to go to the user accounts, and it's telling me to go to the user accounts very specifically. Let's see what it's saying. So local using groups, users. So here are my users. And what it's telling me here is to ensure the OPC server's user account appears in there. OPC server user account, well, let me just see. So I'll go to the remote desktop of application PC. There is that remote desktop. I will go to Task Manager, Details, and I will go to my OPC server. Now, what is my OPC server called? And what is the executable? And the answer is, I don't know. I don't know what application to take a look at. So to find out, I can go to OPC Expert on this PC. Now I might actually know what that executable is that I'm looking for. I might know, but since for the purpose of this webinar, I don't know, I'm going to take a look at this PC with OPC Expert, which is going to tell me the exact executable. So here we go. And remember, I was connecting to this simulator server from Iconics. That's this guy right here. I will right click it and go to properties. When I go to properties, what I can see here is all this information. And just 1 second, so it's a little bit more clear maybe. There we go. So I can see this information. And what I do see is there is the process name. So I'm going to be looking for simulate ~2. And I can actually see that the user account it's using is Sam. So I will be able to see this. Oh, hold on a sec. Thank you, Microsoft. There, I just lost my connection for a moment, and I should be getting it back right away. There it is. Okay, so the executable is this, and it even tells me the user account is over here. There is, if you're interested in what port is being used, it's 51131, that's the port it's using. But since I know the process name, maybe I didn't even notice this, I'll go over to Task Manager. So I'll go over to Task Manager, there we are. And I'll go to Simulate tilde 2. There it is, right here. And I can see it's running a SAM. So I'll close this. Don't need this anymore. So now I'll just minimize this. And what I need to do is to create an account called SAM. So going back here, it tells me to create an account called SAM. It tells me exactly how to do it. So I will create an account called SAM. There we go. And we will create and close. Now, those of you who are watching carefully might recognize that I may have made a mistake, but what do I know? So in any case, OPC Expert tries, and of course, it's not, it isn't able to get there yet. And why? Well, when I look at the error, so there's the error again, it also tells me at the very end to set the password. So it tells me to set the password, which of course I forgot, oops. So I will go here, I will set the password. Oops, just before I set the password, I want you to see. So there's OPC Expert. So I'm going to set the password. Proceed. I'll put in my secret password. There we go. And now that I've set the password, check this out. So OPC Expert suddenly realizes, hey, things are working okay. And if everything goes well, these should actually change to green check marks if everything is actually okay. And sure enough, it does change. So now I know that my connection is okay. So I'm already done. So there, that takes care of my connection with this Iconics OPC server. Now I can connect over here, or I can connect over here. Let's go over to the UA connection, and look at that. I'm able to connect to UA. Now, even if I'm not able to connect to UA, I will, for example, disconnect. I can check this out. I can test it by connect, custom, and here's where I can choose different connection mechanisms. So for example, I can select a non-connection and I can test it. So I can test it, and here I am connecting, and it says successfully connected. But I can see, for example, if I take a secure connection and I click test, this one is going to fail. And it actually provides with the authentication, there's a problem, and this is of course because of the certificates. So I will choose a connection that actually works just like this. Once again, I'll click, this one I already tested. So it enables me to test. I can see exactly which connection. I can try out different usernames and passwords right here. So I can do all of that, or use a third-party certificate or whatever. So in this case, I'll connect with anonymous, none. I will again click test. I know this works because I tested it earlier, successfully connected. Good, so I know that this is working. So now here I am connecting, and I can, sure enough, connect to this OPC server, and I can subscribe to data. So this data right here is coming from a remote OPC UA server. So there we go. So now what I'd like to do, since I've got a whole bunch of data right here, as you can see, coming from different computers. So this data is coming from this computer. It's also coming from this remote computer. I've got UA, I've got DA data. I'll select all of this data here. So I will select all of the data here. I will select Control A to select everything. And now I want to archive it because I want to save this data because maybe there's something wrong with the process data. So I will create a new archive. And you can see that I can store it in Microsoft SQL Server, or send it to Azure, or to Amazon, or send it to SQLite if I want, or MySQL, a whole bunch of different options here. But very specifically, since I'm on my own, I'll just do it to a CSV. OPC Expert just comes with it, already embedded. I'll click Next. And I have a whole bunch of options format that I want the data in. So if you download this, you can actually check this out. I'll click OK. It's got a whole bunch of data management inside. And now what OPC Expert is actually going to do is create a historian. So right now it's storing data, and in fact in a CSV, and you can see its status, and the status is live. So this is happening right now. So there is my data. Now what I want to point out is this. Right now, OPC Expert. So when I go to OPC Expert, you can see there's OPC Expert. That's the GUI I'm looking at right here. And this right here is the system tray. Now, what's quite interesting is you can see this is not running as a service. This is not a service right now. So if I go to services, what I don't see is anything that says OPC Expert. I see OPC Enum, but I don't see OPC Expert. So what I want to do is run this as a service, because I'm going to turn OPC Expert off, and I still wanted to collect the data. So I'll go to Tools, Install as a Windows Service, and I can run it either as a local system account, or I can run it as a very specific account. I'll run it as that account, and over here you can see that OPC Expert, there it is. It's set up OPC Expert Archive Server, which is now running as a service. You can see the CPU goes high as it's just setting up. And once it's done setting up, the CPU goes way down, and it takes almost nothing. So you can see here, it's taking almost nothing. And now when I close, see the GUI is taking up a little bit more, but the archive server doesn't take much. I'll close the GUI, and there it is. The archive server is still running. And I've got a really, really, really low-end PC right here, and you can see it's even on that, it's taking almost no CPU. So there we go. I'm now archiving this data, and I will be able to take a look at the history. So, and not just with OPC Expert, by the way. You can connect to it with any other OPC UA client or even DA and see the data, the historical data with UA HA or OPC Classic with OPC HDA. When I start up OPC Expert again, it's setting up, it's realizing, oh, I have a service here. I've got the historian. So it's going to automatically connect to the archive, and it will show us the data it's collecting. Now keep in mind that data that it's collecting right here is all real-time data. Sorry, it's collecting real-time data, and that's what it's actually showing. So what I want to show here is one of the common things that you do when you connect OPC to historians is you want to see what data is available. So we will read history. I'll right-click, read history, and sure enough, it shows me that the earliest data I have is at 7:27. So roughly 3 minutes ago, it's now 7:30, and I will take all of this data. So from 6 minutes ago until now, so it should give me about 3 minutes of data, and sure enough, 165 points, which is roughly one item every second, and I can see I've got data here. So and look at this. Here, I also see some bad data. How interesting. So remember, there's some bad data. I wonder why. So I'm going to close this. And now I'm curious what's actually going on here. So I will trend this data. Now, this is the first time we're trending. So it sets up the trend. It's going to set up the trend. And all of this is included inside OPC Expert, which, of course, you can download for free. You can even get a license. You can run it for an extended period of time. It doesn't cost anything. You can just get that right off our website. It's all completely automated. So here we go. So it's setting up the trend. And to do that, it's actually using REST API, which means you will actually be able to see this trend even on your phone. And there's the data we've got. So this is the data that's coming in, right? And you can see, look at this, we got bad data here, bad data here. I don't know if you remember why, but the reason was we were running OPC Expert. We started archiving data, and then I made it run as a service, so it had to restart, and this here represents the time when we actually stopped OPC Expert and made it into a service, which is why we lost data. So you can very easily see what's going on with your data. If you're getting disconnections, you can see why and when, or if you're trying to take a look at your process data. Now, I also said that OPC Expert supports alarms and conditions, and alarms and events. And I'll show you an example here. I'll go back to real-time data. And remember, we don't have anything here because I stopped OPC Expert and started it again. So what I'll do is I'll go to entire network, application PC, and here we're browsing. Now, what I see over here is we've got one OPC UA server. So let's go see. And the reason is, you see that I don't have the sample server running. So I'll start up this server right here. So this comes from OPC Foundation, and it provides us with alarms and conditions. So it simulates alarms and conditions. There we go. So that's what this guy's doing. So now that it's running, I'm going to go look for it. So I have to go back to application PC, right click, and I will just rebrowse to see what I'm finding. Now, if you're wondering, how exactly did OPC Expert find this OPC server? Well, this one right here, when we go to properties, this one was found from the port. It didn't come from the local discovery server. So OPC Expert found it actually quite nicely because this server didn't register with the local discovery server. So I will connect to this. There we go. So here I connected to it. Now I will right click and I see OPC UA alarms and conditions, and I can monitor them, meaning I'm just viewing them, or I can even archive them too. So I can grab all this information and send it to a CSV or to SQL, wherever you want to store it. But in this case, I'm just going to monitor this OPC server. I'm going to monitor the alarms. You can see here are the alarms and conditions, and it's going to show us exactly what it's getting. Now, some of the right here, for example, this guy just changed. So did this guy. And as we look, we can see that there's severity changes. So these are actually coming in live right now. All of these are coming in live, and you can see some of these, the severities will change every so often. There we go. This guy just changed. This one just changed to high, right? So these guys just changed, and I can just spot these. Remember, this was high. I'm not going to change this. Hopefully, it'll change in a little bit. But you can see that this is a live view. And OPC Expert even includes a web view of all of this information. So you can actually look at it on a phone. Look at this. This one just turned to low. So you can see that OPC Expert enables you to connect to OPC alarms and conditions, OPC alarms and events, and OPC history. So it will store the history for you. Look, I just closed OPC Expert. Let's minimize this. And you can see that the archive server is still running. So the archive server is still running because it's running as a service. OPC Expert for the trend, it uses REST API, so it's a web server. So now that means that I can actually connect to this with a phone and get all my real-time data, even from a phone. And all of this is done automatically. So the whole point is the OPC Expert, as you saw, enables you to troubleshoot your connections and enables you to see your data pretty easily. Let me get back here. So what we showed was a connection to the local OPC servers. We showed remote connections, and we even did some troubleshooting with OPC DA, and we looked at accounts, and we even collected this data. Now, folks, please keep your questions coming, and I will answer them as we move along. So that's the little demo. I will get back to this with your questions later on. Now, to get some help, to get some automated troubleshooting, you can download OPC Rescue. You can download OPC Expert. All of this, everything I'm showing you here, by the way, is all free. So the servers I showed you, the Kepler server, the simulation server, these you can download for free. They've got demo versions you can download. You can come to our website and download them as well. You can download OPC Expert, OPC Rescue. With OPC Expert, of course, you'll be able to thread, bridge, tunnel, and we've got separate videos showing you how to do all of this stuff. So all of this is available. And in this particular webinar, we talked about the OPC specifications, specifically UA and OPC Classic. So as you're starting to connect OPC UA and DA and A&E and ANC and so on, you can actually use OPC Expert very, very easily to troubleshoot your connections and see what the problems are. Remember, if your application can't connect, OPC Expert will not be able to connect either, most likely. And when OPC Expert can't connect, it will give you very verbose information about the errors and help you to troubleshoot and see exactly what's going on. If you're having a problem with OPC, OPC Expert is the application to download. It's free to download and you can get it. Now, if you want to learn more about OPC and how these connections actually work, you can go to one of our hands-on workshops where you can earn your certified OPC professional designation. You can come to one of our workshops where you can configure OPC and DCOM. You can troubleshoot these systems, learn OPC best practices. We give you a couple of computers and you can do all of this on-site or remote. Speaking of where you do it, you can come to one of our upcoming workshops, which are remote, which means there's no travel whatsoever. It's interactive. You have a live instructor with live remote classes. We have public classes. We got private training as well. We also have on-site training. So all of that is available for you. And you can take a look at dates at opcti.com. Now, those of you that have to go, one more slide, and we're going to send you a copy of this webinar recording. You may have seen down here, we will email you the webinar recording. So we're going to send you this email. We're going to email you this webinar recording, and you'll get a link to download OPC Expert. You'll get a link to some viewer examples. You can take a look at all of this, and you'll get an invitation to our next webinar. So that is something you are going to get as well. The next webinar is on Excel. So if you have any questions, please feel free. Go ahead and send an email to info@opcti, or send us, just give us a phone call, and we're available to help you out. You can take a look at this specifically, the viewer at opcexpert.com/viewer. So this ends the formal part of the presentation.